Whoa there.
I'm so glad you didn't tell me about that ahead of time.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Backlot 605 podcast. I am riding in on my horse. I am one of your hosts. I am Casey Calderman. Joined with me, as always, is my co-host, Patsy Brian Mensing. Brian, what is up?
I'm not a patsy.
You are Patsy. Hey, it's Terry Gilliam. You like Terry Gilliam. That's all good.
I do. I've watched more Terry Gilliam movies than you have.
That is true, but I am working on that because, hey, we're talking about a Terry Gilliam movie that he co-directed alongside another Terry Jones. This is Monty Python and the Holy Grail, as we are kicking off a brand new year, brand new series. We are getting into one that I have been very excited to do for a very long time. This is our Monty Python series kicking off here in January.
I think this is one of those series that popped up like once every month or two. When are we going to do Monty Python? When are we going to do Monty Python? And you finally get to do your Monty Python. You're going to be sad when we're done with this month. You're not going to know what to do with yourself.
I'm not going to know what to do with myself. I really don't, because this is I am a huge Python fan. I've been, like I said, waiting to do this one for a while. And I mean, Monty Python, Holy Grail, one of my favorite movies ever. And I know someone else who is joining us this week. This is also one of their favorite movies ever. We're joined by Polarized writer, author extraordinaire, Logan Schwanke. Welcome, Logan Schwanke.
Howdy. Thank you for overselling me. That is very nice of you.
Logan, the first question I have for you.
Logan's not humble at all.
He is our Sir Galahad. He is the pure. He is I do have to ask you one question before we get into this, Logan.
Okay, what is it?
What is your favorite color?
Blue. No. Yeah!
That was great. That was actually pretty good.
I'm not gonna lie. It took me about like a 10-second delay of going, what the? Never mind.
Why is he asking his favorite color? What?
And it's literally been within hours of me watching Holy Grail, and I still had to go, huh?
That might be a lot of this episode. Is just let's quote something from Holy Grail really quick because it's hilarious.
I will say, speaking of quotes, there was a number of times where like there's things that I say on an atypical basis. I'm like, oh, that's where I got that from. Like I fart in your general direction.
Oh yeah, that's a Monty Python thing.
Or just blank in your general direction. I'm like, that's where I got that from.
You know, me calling people, telling people that their mothers were hamsters and their fathers smell of elderberries. You know, I get a strange look every once in a while, but I think it fits most times.
Until you get that one person that's like, aha!
They're like, oh, Python fan. Yeah. So, should we jump into this? Let's not jump into Monty Python quite yet. We'll do that in the second half of the show. But we do have a little bit of box office and some news to talk about for this week. Kind of another slow week here as we are in a mid-holiday season. We're just getting on the on the kind of tail end of that, heading into the new year. So hopefully the news will start picking up again. But before we get to that, let's jump to the box office for this week. First up in the box office, once again, Wonder Woman 1984, $5.5 million. Yeah, I think $5 million second week out is pretty good. I mean, I didn't care for the movie, and the fact that it's still on HBO Max and still in theaters, that's pretty good for doing $5.5 million. It's definitely mixed reviews on this movie overall, but people are still running out to the theaters to check it out.
Yeah.
Brian, your microphone is acting up again. I think it's being haunted by the ghost of the Holy Grail. As I would say, you are now having to be the comic book expert here, Logan, as you are, someone who has written a comic book. What do you think of the numbers for Wonder Woman? Obviously being the big movie that's come back into theaters, revitalizing it a little bit.
I would say the numbers, like they are what they are for their. This is just, it's something in such a long time, and people are looking to go to movies, but at the same time, people aren't going to movies, so it's expected. I'm used to that shock value of those Marvel numbers, so it's kind of like, this seems underwhelming, but I got to keep in mind on what's going on. So Yeah.
Pandemic numbers, this isn't bad, I don't think.
No, I don't
Especially
think
second
so.
weekend out, yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2, though, one that's been sticking around here for over a month now is The Croods, A New Age, $2.18 million. Still doing pretty well for itself here. Like I said, I believe we're nearing 7 weeks of this movie being out. It's been available on VOD for a little while too. So that's good numbers for The Croods sticking around this long. Mm-hmm. Again, no family entertainment out there yet.
Yeah. Same things. Parents just want kids out of the house.
I think Brian is trying to do a skit for us. Your microphone's not working, Brian. So I'm not muting you, I promise. Number 3, though, is News of the World, $1.69 million. Again, some news of this podcast is we're running into technical difficulties. That is for sure.
Yep.
This is decent numbers here for this movie. Still sticking around in the top 5. I would say for a little while we have not a whole lot of new movies coming back to theaters for a while, so that's pretty good for this movie here.
Yeah, and especially since it's not something that it has Tom Hanks in it, but I really didn't hear much about this movie. This is my first time hearing about it, so it's like, well, for a Tom Hanks movie in the middle of the pandemic, I think it's good.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and that from what I saw, I haven't seen a whole lot of trailers playing on like TV or even like YouTube ads for that movie, which I've seen a lot of for obviously Wonder Woman and The Croods. So to see these other movies still in the top 5 is pretty telling of what's going on in the box office right now. I mean, even Monster Hunter, I've seen a few trailers for. But that is our number 4 spot. Monster Hunter, $1.25 million.
Yeah. And for that one, it's like a video game movie? Because I saw the title and that's where my head instantly went. It's like, I mean, the premise for a movie is there with how good it could be with all the different mythical monsters with it. So
yeah, and again, I think it's one of those things that it's gone down a little bit, obviously, since Wonder Woman is kind of same demographic, that action type of movie.
Yeah.
Even the Wonder Woman 1984 does not have any action in it. But Monster Hunter, I think it's doing pretty well for itself. Obviously, it was scheduled to come out. I believe it was supposed to come out this week, but then it decided to move before Wonder Woman, which is probably the best route to go for that movie. Move before Wonder Woman, before she starts sweeping up box office numbers for a while.
Yep. So they can still make some movie at the box office and actually have some sort of an opening weekend. So.
Number 5 is Fatale, little over $700,000 here in this holiday box office weekend over the New Year's holiday. So Fatale doing all right, below that $1 million mark, but it is nice to see 4 out of the 5 in that range between $1 to $5 million. It's nice to see that we have movies that are still making money in the box office, even with everything going on in the world.
Yeah. So there still is something to like you can make money here still. So.
That is the box office number. So I'll round them out quick here. Once again, Wonder Woman 1984, $5.5 million. The Croods, A New Age, $2.18 million. Number 3 was News of the World, $1.69. Number 4 is Monster Hunter, $1.25. And coming in at number 5 is Fatale, $700,000 here in the box office. So I guess as we are still trying to get Brian back on with all these technical difficulties, we'll move on to the news, and hopefully he'll pop in here to shed some light on our one and only news article for the week. Again, like I said, it was a slow week for news, and we didn't have a whole lot going on, but the one piece of news is pretty exciting. We're getting confirmation that Michael B. Jordan is going to make his directorial debut with Creed 3, as confirmed by his co-star Tessa Thompson, who co-starred alongside him in the first 2 Creed movies. Creed 3, Michael B. Jordan in the director's seat for this one, pulling a Sylvester Stallone by stepping into the director's chair himself. I'm really stoked for this. I think this is perfect for him to step into the directing seat with the third movie, because obviously he's no stranger to the franchise now. He's doing a Stallone, like who's going to know his character better than himself type of thing. So having him progress now into the directing seat, I think makes perfect sense. Ryan Coogler's busy with Black Panther 2. Stephen Caple Jr., I don't know what he's doing next. I don't know why he wasn't asked to come back, unless it was just Michael B. Jordan is, just wanted to direct.
Yeah, and I really like this move, because it's kind of like, well, when you're telling an artist to paint something versus when the artist, because I think of it as like a painting sort of sense, because we're going from the artist is being told to paint something to now they know their style, they can do their style the best. And really what you said is Michael B. Jordan knows this character Creed, so if anybody's going to get the best out of it, it's going to be him.
Yeah, and I think I'm really interested where they're going to go with this third installment, because I was okay with them ending at Creed 2. Yeah. It's kind of the cap off of the entire Rocky and Creed series.
Mm-hmm.
So they set up ways for Creed to continue in the future. I'm going to make a bold statement here, I think, is Rocky Balboa is my favorite cinematic character of all time. The Rocky series with Creed is my favorite movie series ever.
Yeah.
But that being said, I don't want to see Rocky in this movie. I'm all right if Rocky just doesn't show up in Creed 3. I'm cool if Rocky is just he's left where his story ends at the end of Creed 2. That's the finality of it. That's where we last see Rocky. We can have Creed mention him in the movie and stuff, but I'm a-okay with not having Sylvester Stallone in the movie.
Yeah, I think you're 2 movies into it. I think the fan base is invested enough in it. I think it is time where you can have Rocky step out of the picture and Creed can carry it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, having Michael B. Jordan directing it could really help him bolster that sort of movie.
Brian, you're back. What do you think of this news, Creed 3 with Michael B. in the directing seat?
I think this is an interesting choice for if Michael B. Jordan wants to be a director in Hollywood. I think this is an interesting choice, because I think Creed helped solidify Michael B. Jordan as a leading star. I mean, he'd already had some good movies prior to this, but this definitely, I think, has helped solidify that. And just knowing the trajectory that Stallone has taken with the original Rocky series, I think having him basically taking over the reins of the Creed series to be his jumping point, I see as him showing that he has an affliction, A, for this character, and B, his want and longevity for his career in Hollywood in general. And I think this is only just the beginning of what we see out of Michael B. Jordan.
I agree. I'm hoping for the best for the guy. Like I was telling Schwanke before, is that who knows the character of Creed, Adonis Creed, better than Michael B. Jordan at this point? Like that's how I feel Stallone felt with Rocky back in the day. Is who knows the character better than I do? I created him. Michael B. Jordan didn't create Adonis Creed, but he's now played him in 2 movies. I think he knows the character well enough to take it over.
Well, I would say you're half right there, because even though he didn't write and create the character per se on paper, he basically created the character on screen. Like Creed could have absolutely failed if we would not have had the right person playing Creed. So, because some people would have thought, oh, just because we had Creed from the original Rocky series, this could have just been bad fanfare that wouldn't have worked. I think that he still at a point has been half of the creation of this character, and I think it would be a good way to be able to keep going potentially with this character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, that is the only news that we have, and we might have talked about this news before on the show. I can't remember if we have before.
I think before, when we briefly talked about it, was more of the speculation, because this has been something that's been speculated, I think, since like March, May, something like that. It's been a few months.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's go from the slow news week to the slow coming soon week. We only have a couple titles here to talk about once again. Last week it was just as slow this week again, but we do have some promising titles that we have coming out here for coming soon. First up, we do have the Netflix original movie coming out January 7th to Netflix, Pieces of a Woman. So this is the movie that is starring Vanessa Kirby and Shia LaBeouf. It's been getting some rave reviews. It's also been widely talked about, this 23-minute take on a home birth. So this is a 23-minute long, I believe it's a one take, right?
I don't. This is all news to me.
Yeah, it's a 20. I've seen part of this. Yeah, it's a 23-minute long one take of a birthing scene. So if that doesn't sell you, maybe the cast will. Like I said, Vanessa Kirby, Shia LaBeouf. What do you guys think of this? Did you have a chance to watch the trailer, or are you planning to watch this brand new Netflix movie?
No, I haven't seen the trailer, but you've piqued my curiosity. Not in the childbirth part of it, but the Shia LaBeouf and Vanessa Kirby side of things. Yeah, I mean, because Vanessa Kirby is the one from Hobbs and Shaw, correct?
Yeah, and Mission Impossible.
Yes. One of these days I'll get around to actually watching that Fallout. But no, I'm curious. You know, as of late, when Shia LaBeouf has kind of turned into more of he's shedding that Transformers vibe and like Peanut Butter Falcon and Honey Boy and stuff like that, to the point where I'm like, okay, you know, he's giving me stuff that makes me go, okay, your name piques my interest, makes me want to watch the movie, not just because it's some sort of like cash grab that he's done.
Yeah, I think for me, Shia is one of the most interesting actors working today.
Correct.
I mean, even this year when they were doing the Fast Times at Ridgemont High, like cast read,
he looked high as a kite.
Oh, he was smoking on it. But he was also super into it. Like, if they were ever to redo that, like, he should play Spicoli. Like,
there's a problem with that though. It takes place in a high school, and he obviously looks way older than high school age now. Like,
I think he's beyond. He's still in high school or never finished high school or something like that. There's ways to work around it. Shia could play the guy who dropped out of high school in the 9th grade and now has to come back and rejoin high school.
The only way that would work is if they went with like a Wet Hot American Summer-esque, where like all of the teenagers were like 30-some-odd-year-old men and women playing high schoolers.
Hey, Adam Sandler played a elementary school aged kid in Billy Madison, so he Shia can pull the same here.
That doesn't count.
Just do a Billy Madison style
because Billy Madison, he goes through what K through 12 in like 8 weeks,
something like that.
Yeah.
2 weeks per class. I think it's longer than 8 weeks. Yeah. Anyway, Logan, what do you think of this movie? Do you want to see some more Shia?
That would be the only reason I could think of watching it after like just briefly glancing at the trailer. It's not something that my interest isn't necessarily peaked at. So the only reason I would watch it would be to see Shia, see what he can do in it.
Yeah, I'm tentative on wanting to check it out. I've heard really good things about the movie, especially that 23-minute long one take. I'm like, that's impressive. That's worth checking out alone, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So yeah, that is Pieces of a Woman, Netflix, January 7th. And of course, we are doing this every week. We got to talk about them. The Sioux Falls State Theater titles for this upcoming week. Pretty stacked week once again. We have the original Mel Gibson, Mad Max on the big screen. We also do have the classic musical West Side Story and a 2020 critical hit from A24. This is First Cow. So a very wide array of movies. We got a 70s Australian exploitation post-apocalyptic movie. We have a classic 60s musical. And then we do have a brand new 2020 movie, First Cow.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you guys are very excited for, thinking of checking out at all?
Actually, I myself wouldn't mind seeing all of them. I'm not going to be able to, which absolutely sucks. But I mean, to be able to see something like Mad Max on a big screen would be fantastic. Seeing West Side Story at the State Theater, just because it's an old classic film in a classic theater, I think would be just wonderful. And I've never seen First Cow, and I know that a lot of the guys in the group praised that film for last year, so it would be great. But I think out of the three, West Side Story would be the one that I would really want to try to be able to make it to, just because I think classic film in a classic setting is just a perfect way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never had a chance. Obviously, First Cow just came out this past year, and I've never seen Mad Max or West Side Story on the big screen. So I would, those seem like perfect movies to go out to. And I know when I was there this past weekend, Kayla was like, "I want to see Mad Max. I want to see West Side Story." She has to work, so of course we're not going to make it to either, which sucks. But yeah, I encourage anyone, like, just even watching the trailers on the State Theater's big screen. I'm like, oh, these just look incredible on the big screen. I think those classic, the classic movies, especially, like, just seeing the big colors, especially West Side Story has huge colors, and we saw Grease, and Grease has big colors, and it, like, they just pop on that screen even more so than ever watching it at home. So yeah, that absolutely go check out all these movies.
Yep.
Well, and you made the comment that she works, so you can't go see it. I'm trying to understand the logic here.
If she wants to see it, I better not go watch it by myself.
Yeah.
If I don't plan on sleeping on the couch.
Yeah. So it might just be one of those weekends where we watch both of those at home, you know, which is all right, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That is it for Coming Soon, though. If you want to check out our full Coming Soon lineup, we do have more stuff that is coming to streaming, to theaters, to any streaming service, you know, older, new movies. Go check us out. Coming soon on backlot605.com.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead. We're going to take a little break here. And when we come back, we are going to grab our coconuts and seek out the Holy Grail. Nee!
Hey you, yes, you listening. You like comic book movies, don't you? Of course you do. Did you know comic book movies are based off physical comic books? Well, I'm here to tell you you can be one of the first readers of the brand new comic book Polarized. Polarized is about two superpowered brothers on the run from the law and trying to right the wrongs of their past. You can pre-order the first 20-page issue today on Polarized73.com. Get 10% off your order using promo code BACKLOT10. That's right, Polarized73.com. And get 10% off your order using promo code BACKLOT10. This goes for everything on the site, including merch. This promo ends January 31st, so don't wait. Take your first leap into the world of Polarized today.
All right, we are back. Special thank you. This month's sponsor, who is on the show, he is Logan Schwanke with Polarized. You heard the ad there. If you do want to go check it out, the first 20-page issue is available now for pre-order. Like we said there, 10% off your order using promo code BACKLOT10, Polarized73.com. Logan, we'll get to your plugs at the end of the show, but I think there is a reason that you chose this month specifically to say, hey guys, I want to sponsor your show. Is it because you like Monty Python?
It's because I slightly like Monty Python, yes.
How big is the word slightly in this sentence?
Well, I still talk to most of the people in that group that we did this stuff with, so yeah, I like it a lot. So, quick
background on that. My Monty Python love, and this kind of goes into how we're doing and why we're doing this mini series, is that back in high school, one of my friends in high school, he kept telling me about this movie, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and he's like, "Oh, it's this super weird, off the cuff comedy about knights and they're seeking the Grail, and it's just really goofy and funny, and it has like this random kind of humor to it." I'm like, okay, that sounds like my thing. I was, I really like that kind of humor, and so finally, I was in a Kmart. Remember Kmart, guys?
I remember Kmart.
Yeah, I saw the DVD for Monty Python there, and I was like, all right, I am buying it. That's the only time I've ever seen this movie available anywhere. So picked it up, called him on my way home. I'm like, all right, I got the movie. Come over to my house, and we're going to watch it. You know what we did? We watched it twice that night because it was so funny. Like I had to sit and watch it twice because I missed stuff. I was laughing so hard. And then I want to say it was the next night, we were all in high school at this point, that I asked Logan and all of our other friends to come over, and we all watched Monty Python again. And it kind of became almost a weekly movie in a way, or a movie we had on the background while we were playing poker or hanging out or whatever. Like this was our movie in high school. And so even so much so that me, Logan, and a group of our friends decided that we are going to do this for our school's speech competition. So we joined speech just so we could reenact Monty Python skits. So we did 4 skits from this. It was the French taunting skit.
Yep.
We did the witch.
The witch, yep. And then the prince.
Yep. The prince with the 2 guards, the incompetent guards. We are not to leave the room even if you come and get him. That's it. And then we also did the Bridge of Death. So those were our ones. So, I mean, those are the 4 scenes I have almost memorized just because we had to have them memorized in high school. But that was kind of a little bit of this comedy troupe that we had in high school where that started. And we went on to do some SNL skits and stuff too. But that's where my love of Monty Python grew. And it's continually grown ever since. I love the group. I think they are, of like the great comedy troupes of all time. I think Monty Python is right up there with like the Three Stooges as the greatest. I love them, and they're so influential that the influence they leave on comedy today is still exponential. I mean, South Park is my favorite comedy show, which is like just a lot of Monty Python humor cranked up to 11. Cranking up the raunchiness factor with South Park. But yeah, I love this movie. So I don't know. Let's jump into it.
Okay.
Brian, do you remember the first time you watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
The first time I watched Monty Python, I would have to say, let's see here, based on my work history, I was 24, 25 maybe. I did not see this until I was into the 2000s easily. We had a group of us at work that are like, oh, you gotta see this movie. You gotta see this movie. And it's one of those things that of course I like my dumb humor on occasion and whatnot. For some reason, Monty Python has just been a big black hole for me. And they're like, all right, we're gonna sit down and watch Monty Python. I do remember getting to the very end of it and going, what the hell just happened? Especially because of the way the movie ends. I got to the end and I'm just like, so this is British humor.
You can thank your favorite Python, Eric Idle, for said ending of this movie. Because that is an Eric Idle special, how this movie ends, I mean, so let's get into it then. Full spoilers, I guess. If you can spoil Monty Python and the Holy Grail, but we are going to spoil it.
The movie's like what, 45 years or 35 years old?
No. Yeah, 45, right? 75.
Yeah, 75 it came out.
Woo! Yeah. So let's jump into this. Monty Python, Holy Grail, 1975. Obviously, it follows King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table as they leave Camelot and search for the Holy Grail. And so I think that the genius of this movie starts from pretty much frame 1 of this movie. The credits are hilarious. Because the first time I ever watched this, my buddy was like, okay, here's one thing. You have to read the credits. I'm like, why do I have to read the credits? It's like, just trust me, read the credits.
Mm-hmm.
So, going from the great also Wick to every random Moose joke in this, like Moose's nose wiped by, and it's just some fake name. Perfect. That is my style of humor. I love it so much. I think it is just perfect off the cuff style of humor.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, for the sake of those credits, when they, all of a sudden there's the break when it's like the person who did the subtitles got sacked. And then the people that sacked the person that got sacked also got sacked. If they were to try to do this today, they would have to put a precursor, on the before even the beginning of the credits that says if you have epileptic seizures, stay away from looking at the credits, because all of a sudden I did not remember that part. All of a sudden we got into the break room like we're just gonna do it on our own, and we fired everybody that's working on the credits. I'm like, I'm gonna throw up.
The movie's directed by llamas, and then also on the bottom, and Terry Gilliam and Terry Jones.
Yeah. But just that flashing red and yellow, I'm just like, wow. That's how you open up a film.
Like that's that's what I love about the Python guys, because I can just see them sitting around in a room like, okay, we'll start with, what's the date, where we're at, the setting of this movie. We're in England, and we're setting it up, King Arthur coming in on the horse. So it's like, how do we do our credits? We can't just have boring credits. We're like, all right, let's put subtitles underneath are they in German?
Yes.
Yeah. And so just the fact they're like, all right, let's put subtitles underneath and then have random things about taking vacations in Sweden. And
I think about it. No, I was gonna say they couldn't be German. I think they're Swedish.
Maybe they're
because they got some really weird characters with the lines through the O and stuff like that.
And so it's just no nonsense. It's all nonsense, I guess. Not no nonsense, all nonsense. These credits, and I love it. Especially all the moose stuff is just so random and makes zero sense. I love it.
I will tell you that when it started playing, I legit went to my closed captioning settings in Netflix to go, did I turn that on? Because the first couple sections of it are normal. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the hell? And then you could tell when it started to take it over, when the humor started popping, I'm like, oh, I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I legit did that the first couple things. I'm like, son of a bitch.
also Wick. Yeah, I think that from, like I said, from the get-go, this movie is like, all right, you're in this for the laughs, the entire movie. So I think one of the genius things about this movie is kind of happenstance. Where we get to next is we get King Arthur riding in on his horse, and it's just Terry Gilliam right behind, Graham Chapman, banging coconuts like I was doing at the beginning of the show to make the sounds of the horses, hooves, clomping along. I'm like, that's a budget thing. They didn't have enough money to get horses. Also, it's hilarious that they're like, well, what makes it sounds like horses' hooves? It's like, well, coconuts, I guess, do.
Well, no, that's just it. Like you may mention is if there's one thing this movie definitely can show you is that they put the budget where the limited budget they had, they put the budget where they needed to have the budget and used the humor for the rest of it, because you're probably right. They're like, how much to rent a horse? How much do you have the horse trainer on there? Whatever the case is, probably like, what would be funnier? And that joke just works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's a joke that pays off in the opening scene about how coconuts migrate, which is completely nonsensical. Are you suggesting coconuts migrate? Well, they could be carried.
Or the fact that joke plays throughout a couple times through the rest of the film.
Yep.
I mean, we get Sir Bedivere when we get him introduced that he's tying a coconut to a bird as it's flying away. And that's the payoff to the Bridge of Death scene is coconuts.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's pretty much every joke in this movie that is set up is paid off, probably not once, but multiple times in this movie. Mm-hmm. And I think it's perfect humor. And I mean, that opening scene, the first time I watched it, I remember like, okay, what's going on here? Why are we talking about coconuts? Like, I didn't understand the joke of it until you watch the rest of the movie and you rewatch. You're like, okay, this is set up to pay off not only in this opening scene here, but pay off the rest of the movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the scene that kind of, I do like the opening scene, but the scene that really gets me into this movie is the Bring Out Your Dead scene. Like, that's where I'm like, all right, we're in the groove of this now. And from what I understand, they were talking about maybe that was going to be the opening of the movie, is just Bring Out Your Dead. We're like, all right, we can't be too morbid. We should set up our main character first and foremost, get him introduced with the coconuts. Otherwise, the coconuts might not make any sense going forward.
But you know what? The funny thing is that if you would have flipped it and had to bring out your dad, setting up the castle of which he is like approaching to, I think it still would have worked. But I think coming into it with the galloping to establish the character, I think was probably the right way to go. But I don't think you would have lost anything if those two would have been flipped around. But no, the introduction of Eric Idle as that guy, oh, I laughed the whole time, especially right when we get to the part where it's going to go dump the old man on there. But he's not dead. I'm not dead. You'll be in a little bit. Which, again, is another joke that kind of pays off throughout the rest of the film on how many people are, quote-unquote, dead. Oh, I'm not quite dead. Or, oh, I'll be fine.
Yeah, and that sets up for, like, throughout the movie, too, where there's stuff going on in the background. I love the thought that they're just walking up on that cart, and in the background, you just see a woman beating a cat against the wall.
It's throughout the movie, too. It just...
It just sets it up where it's like, even if you're not looking at the main stuff, there's stuff going on in the back that's going to be equally as funny. So,
yeah, I don't remember a cat.
Oh, they do it at least. Yeah. They do it here, and then they do it when they're getting the shrubbery from Roger the Shrubber, right? Am I right? I think that's where she.
Like that's right.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a part where they're in Camelot and they step on the same cat. In the Camelot dance scene. I love the bring out your dead. That's kind of where I'm like, all right, we're into full gear. We're full Monty Python territory, and great payoff to I think this movie does a great thing of putting us in the time frame of when this took place. Like, it brings us back to King Arthur times. I think that's what makes this movie work so well. It's like, I feel like I'm in the Dark Ages in this movie. And like, people are crawling in the mud and it's just dirty. And when Eric Idle does show up, he's covered in mud too. And, and one joke sets up that perfectly. This entire world is when, King Arthur comes galloping through and Idle's like, well, that must be a king. How do you know? He hasn't got shit all over him. Sets up the entire world perfectly in who King Arthur is at this point.
Which, and quote unquote paying off throughout the rest of it here, because you can always tell like who's kind of the hierarchy with anybody that shows up because of how well they look and if they got shit on them.
Yeah. And it even sets up jokes that pay off throughout, is even in this next scene especially, is that no one knows that he's the king of England. Word is not spreading very fast that Arthur is the king of anyone.
Like the two people, like like reorganizing the mud.
Yeah. And
how about they basically are talking about, oh no, around here we got a democracy. Like, we all take turns every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's like the really intellectual Python humor that I do love. It's like, I don't understand fully everything you guys are saying here, but I like it. I like what's going on in this. Because all 6 of the Python guys are very, very smart gentlemen, all college men, and to have some of that style of humor here is great. Even when you get to Michael Palin, help, I'm being repressed. It's the violence inherent in the system. Yeah, and again, it's them crawling in the mud while they're saying this to each other.
Yeah. Because why wouldn't you? Again, I think this is just Python is just the epitome of the wonderful, great, weird, zany, quirky British humor of the 70s.
And I mean, these guys are the epitome of that. They are gold standard of that.
Yes,
of British humor in general too.
And Benny Hill.
Yeah, but the next scene is it might be my favorite scene in this movie, and I think for a lot of people it might be too. It's the Black Knight scene, which I think the Black Knight scene is just perfect, perfect in every way possible. Yeah. Maybe the most quotable scene out of the entire movie. I mean, tis but a scratch.
It's merely a flesh wound.
How about you?
Put your legs up.
John Cleese is so good as the Black Knight. I think he is. He might be the MVP of this entire cast of this movie. I think every character he's playing here is just he plays it so deadpan.
The Frenchman.
Yeah, the Frenchman. He plays Tim the Enchanter. He plays oh my gosh, which knight does he play? Lancelot.
Yeah,
I'm like he plays everything super deadpan except for the French taunter in a way. But here is the Black Knight. Obviously, it's one of the great scenes of any comedy movie ever. I mean, it is total Python-esque humor, just blood, just for blood's sake. It's not really graphic. It's very comedic blood, which I think pays off very well in this entire scene. I mean, we get the fight between the two, and he just runs by and just slightly cuts his arm off.
Yeah. I think the blood, the how fake it looks, I think is in tune to two things. A, it's funnier. It makes it less gruesome.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably cheaper than getting real looking blood.
Yeah, I think I think they always are going for the joke here.
Oh, of course.
They set up the realism already, and it is pretty real. I mean, I don't know, realistic, but we're set in that time of King Arthur already.
Yeah, in terms of the aesthetic, it looks like spot on. But it's when you get into like when they're doing the sword fighting, or like when they're coming through and just meleeing everybody. It's just a matter of like, oh, bing, like you tapped him across, like on his shoulder. Oh no, he's dead. A lot of these just like tap, and that's the death blow to any of these people. Like it wouldn't work in real life, but that's what makes it even funnier.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets to the point where he has no arms left. It's like, yes, I have. You're loony.
I just kick you.
Come back here, I'll bite your legs off. It's so great, and I mean the acting in this movie, I think it's some of the best comedic acting ever. I think Chapman is perfect to play the lead King Arthur in this, because he is pretty deadpan, but he also gives these looks, like some like crazy looks throughout this movie.
The one thing I like about it is the way it's filmed, and just with everybody playing everybody. Everybody's got multiple roles, as you've obviously alluded to, is the fact that it feels very much like if they did a whole bunch of individual skits and stitched them together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's how this movie was wrote. Is that they would split into they had groups within the Python group that they wrote with. Graham Chapman wrote with John Cleese, and Terry Jones wrote with Michael Palin. Idol kind of did his own thing, and Terry Gilliam definitely did his own thing. And that's how, and then they kind of just put and built skits together throughout this, and built at least a cohesive narrative from beginning to end. It's Arthur seeking the Grail. Where can we fit humor in that 90-minute slot there? And I think it works. Yep. This and Life of Brian, when we get to that in a couple weeks, I think it just works perfect how they split it up, is that we are telling a narrative, but it's pretty much skits are the scenes.
And it definitely shows. And I'm not saying that takes away from the film. By all means, it doesn't take away from the film. If it does anything, it helps give I don't even know how to even say it, like a tone to the film.
Mm-hmm. It's a Python aesthetic that they have.
There you go.
And it's built throughout their entire work is just Python. That's why the term Pythonesque is a term that people use when they talk about movies. I mean, it's so much so their own style of comedy that it works. I mean, they're breaking the fourth wall in this movie. They're talking about scene numbers and where this character will appear again. And, I mean, we get to, when the knights all join, even Terry Gilliam says, well, it's only a motto. Like, they know they're in the movie while also being very aware that they're King Arthur and Lancelot and Galahad.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Logan, I think one of our favorite scenes, the witch scene.
Yeah, really, like that scene just all together is like, it's a whole bunch of what's going on and why is this funny? But it is funny. because nothing about it makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, I could see this happening.
And one thing I love about that scene is that it's presented that Sir Bedivere is supposed to be like the intellectual of this group, and his like riddles of them figuring stuff out makes zero sense in today's context.
Because a duck weighs the same amount as wood.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this scene. I think Cleese delivers one of the best lines of the movie. Oh, she turned me into a newt. A newt?
Better.
I got better.
I like that. This isn't even my real nose, and he lifts it up.
Yeah. Did you dress her up like this? No. Yes. It's just the fact that like they believe that a witch is made of wood. And they're like, what do you do with wood? Build a bridge out of her.
Well, no, you wouldn't do that because bridges are made out of stone too.
Oh, yeah. It's just set up that this, in this time frame would make logical sense that they all believe this, that witches are made of wood. And how do we figure out if a witch weighs the same as a duck?
Yeah.
Because they both float on water.
Yeah.
It's a time of critical thinking, not science.
and when
obviously they weren't in Salem when they were talking about witches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's paid off a little, like throughout the movie, like just Bedivere is just kind of this incompetent dude that's supposed to be the brains of the operation. Like when we get to the trap with the rabbit, the wooden rabbit,
Yeah.
then we jump out of it. It's like, who?
What? Oh, I got an idea. What if we built a wooden badger? Shut up.
I love the fact that, they were trying to be like, okay, well, we don't want to do a wooden horse because the whole Trojan horse thing, whatever. Mm-hmm. So we're going to make a wooden rabbit. I'm like, that's great. Yeah. They're going to make their way in because that would be another part where it's been such a long time since I'd seen the film. I'm like, okay, they're pulling the whole, Trojan horse thing, whatever. And all of a sudden, like, and then we'll do this. Like, aren't you supposed to be in there? And then just watching all of the guys' looks on their faces when they're like, we should be in there.
Yeah. I love how they take the rabbit in and just cuts back to just the five guys just laying there. It's like, oh, they're not even in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, the French jump out. Oh yeah.
I mean, right before that, the French taunting scene is impeccably one of the great scenes of this movie. I mean, everybody's reactions in this is really great. What I do love is like Michael Palin especially has some great reactions to everything, the French taunter is throwing at them. And the taunts, I would think are just John Cleese might just be making them up on the spot, a lot of them.
I wouldn't be surprised. I will say this, though, for the sake of that specific scene, though, is not too long after the bunch of us from work sat down and actually watched this movie, one of the guys from work brought in the livestock catapult. So he had at his desk a little catapult that he could fling cows and ducks and stuff like that across the room. As I think about it, I'm like, I want to try to find that because I want to have one of those at my desk.
Fetch a lavash. Yeah, the French taunter was a character I had to play, so I had to do a French accent. That was fun to try to learn. But that is some of my favorite stuff from this movie is just the taunts he's throwing at him. Like, I don't want to talk to you no more, you empty-headed animal foutraff wepe.
Okay.
See, I had to do a French accent, so it comes back every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember. Logan, who did you play in that? Were you?
I was Sir Galahad. I had 2 lines in that skit. So
yeah. That was fun. I had to throw a fake cow at you guys.
Yeah. Well, only for the swing show.
Only for the show. Yeah, I think
I just found I found it on eBay, but I found that thing, and it comes with the
rabbit.
The rabbit.
That is pretty great.
I'm not paying $50 for it, but hey, you can still find them.
Mm-hmm.
Still out there.
Should we talk? We should talk a little bit about. I think we kind of encompass all of Terry Gilliam's animations into this little part here, because I think
that's all Terry right there.
Yeah, and I think one of the most interesting things about Monty Python, the Holy Grail, I mean, obviously it's a hilarious movie, but I think the directing story is very interesting to me because it is directed by Terry Jones and Terry Gilliam, who fought a lot when they first started this movie. Who should be directing? Like, one would come in the morning, tell them to set up a shot this way, and the actors do this thing, and then the afternoon when they were ready to shoot, the other director would come up and say, well, no, shoot it this way, and the actors do this. So there's a lot of butting heads on set on Holy Grail, and I think the consensus from what I've looked up and learned from Python is Terry Jones was the acting director. Like he would work with the actors the most. Well, Gilliam would kind of do the behind the scenes, the shots more so, which fits Gilliam's style more so. And I think the animation, obviously, that's all Gilliam. I think that's Pythonesque. That's one thing that is just ingrained in the Python DNA is Gilliam's animations, and I think they're great in this, and they help. Again, like we talked about the budget. We could go through an entire year that they talk about, like passing between the nights, just through 30 seconds of animation with Terry Gilliam.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's one of and again. Jokes that pay off because of the low budget is later in the movie we get the monster right behind you as they're seeking the castle. Just the fact that they're drawing this animation of this monster chasing all the knights, and then they're like, well, and then the animator had a heart attack, and the knights escape free. It's just perfect. It's perfect.
And I just have to throw out the fact that all of a sudden we just have a cut to modern day, 70s modern day, of a guy at the animation desk just
of Terry Gilliam. It's Terry Gilliam.
Yeah. But just the fact that he, all of a sudden abrupt and falls over.
That's again, this movie it's genius. Let's get into the side quest with all the knights. I mean, we start off with Eric Idle's Sir Robin the Brave. Who his minstrel songs are so funny in this movie. It's just one of the great running jokes of his minstrels talking about him, being brave Sir Robin as he's running away from things, and how he's going to have all these, disembodied, like he's going to be disembodied, and his head's going to get chopped off and his kneecaps smashed, and yeah, it's perfect. I love it. I love the minstrel songs.
Because why not?
Yeah, and I mean, Idle's reactions to these are great too. I am not. I did not.
Shut up.
I just love that his animal too is a chicken. It's just a big chicken.
Because, yeah.
And I mean, I think it's kind of, he has the weakest of the knights on their own side quests. Robin, and we get the three-headed knight, which is one of the weaker scenes for me, but they pointed out in Galahad's scene that it was also weak too when they have oh my gosh, what was the girl's name who Zoot. Yeah, when she's running the castle, when she breaks the fourth wall, she's asking if this scene is working. She's like, well, it's better than the last scene the guys did. I'm like, yeah, okay. They even understand that wasn't one of their strong points of the movie.
I also like how she just keeps on rambling on, and all of a sudden just cuts. Get on with it!
Get on with it!
It just goes through and it actually introduces future characters in that.
Yeah, we get like the Tim the Enchanter, the mob from the end of the movie.
Yep.
And we get the old man from scene 24. Like, they're all introduced there, not in their actual scenes. Yeah, I think the Castle Anthrax scene is just great. It's one of those scenes that took a little while for me to grow onto. I'm like, okay, I like this scene. I like what's going on here. Just the fact that Galahad is the pure one of the bunch.
And that's the castle that he finds.
That's the castle that he finds that he believes has the Grail. Is just with these 16 and a half to 19-year-old girls in it, is what they say. And they all want a spanking. is what they said.
But I like the fact that you kind of see a little bit of an arc out of him from the beginning and end of the castle, because all of a sudden at the very end of at the end of it, when it finally clicks for him, and he's like, I could stay here. And then that's when the rest of the knights come and take him away, and he's like, but no, I need to stay.
No, you are in great peril. Well, I can take on them all. No, it's too perilous.
I can do it.
The one joke that doesn't work quite well is right there in this movie. The one that doesn't hold up from 1970s humor. It's the punchline to Lancelot rescuing Galahad.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't need to say it's on here. It's not a very great joke anymore, but that's the one. I think it's the one joke that's it's still funny, but it's like, yeah, it doesn't work 45 years later in that same context.
Mm-hmm. Oh, are you saying this movie wouldn't be PG if it was made today?
Probably not.
Thanks, Spielberg.
Yeah. What else do we got? We got Lancelot's. I mean, that's one of my favorites. I mean, it opens up with the prince in his castle with his dad, who the prince just wants to sing.
I just want to sing.
And every time he tries, knock it off.
Cut that out. Cut that out.
Cut that out.
Or the fact that he shoots the note out the window.
The sound that makes it gets me every time. It's just dunk. Like falls out the window. Doesn't shoot out the window either. It's hilarious.
But at least we get to see the note later.
Yeah. What do you not like about her? She's got huge tracts of land. Again, that's the great thing about them playing so many characters in this. Everybody kind of gets to play someone different every time. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think this is a big standout character for Michael Palin playing the dad, the king here. Mm-hmm. Just the comedy he gets to, breaks the fourth wall. No, cut that out. Cut that out. And obviously, Idol gets the great lines of this where he's playing the dumb guard. We are not to leave the room, even if you come and get him.
That little bit right there seems like Eric would have been the one to have to pull that thing off, just because the banter between those two, like only certain people would be able to pull that off and do that in one single take. Mm-hmm. Like you would, that banter between the two of them is so easily to be so screwed up so many times. Eric Idle, I just think, is probably one of those ones that's like, I got this. I can do this.
Brian, believe you me, that is one of the hardest scenes to pull off.
That's what I'm saying.
Logan can attest to this, because Logan, you were the prince when we did this scene. Yeah, I was Eric Idle, and I could not remember which order those lines went in half the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how many times they probably had to do that take just to get it right. But the fact that, I mean, yeah, just the deadpan humor of it, the delivery of it, and to be able to do it in the right order, that the person who you're working off of.
Graham Chapman's next to you. Graham Chapman's next to you, hiccuping every other line. Oh, get a glass of water. And then we get, I mean, one of the great, again, Idle lines of this movie. Message for you, sir. He just gets hit by the arrow.
And again, it goes with the whole, like, I'm dead, but I'm not actually dead. Hey, I can come with you. No, you'll be fine. Just lay here and die.
Well, you put that as your ringtone. Message for you, sir.
That was my text message ringtone for a very long time. Every time it would go off, it's still hilarious.
I'm sad I never got to hear that.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm an adult now. It's on silent most of the time.
Yeah. Even I got sick of it hearing message for you, sir.
Well, stop texting so much.
I know. But then one of the great scenes is after, again, I'm saying this about every scene, I think, is John Cleese's Lancelot running to the castle with the drum roll playing underneath. And it's just the same shot of him, the same distance away, like 5 times in a row.
Oh, I think that's more than 5.
Oh, it's so perfect.
Because I think it took me 5 times to mentally realize that it's the same shot. And then just all of a sudden it just cuts over and he's right there and he takes out the one guard.
I love the other guard's reaction. Hey.
But I like to just when it cuts back to the guards and whatnot, they're both like, huh.
Mm-hmm.
Man, there's a guy over there. Huh. And that's it.
I mean, talk about influence. I mean, that scene was directly ripped off from this movie and put in the comedy classic Kung Pao Enter the Fist. So, I mean, talk about comedic influence right there.
Do you know how long it's been since I've seen that film?
We should do that film.
I would be completely okay with that. That would
Why
be
not?
completely. That was one of those like dumb. I'm like, this is stupid. There's no way I'm going to like this. This is hilarious. Not to get completely off track.
It's Python-esque humor in that.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
You know, and I will honestly say, not to get off topic here, but I miss these kind of like humorous movies in that, you know, like Robin Hood Men in Tights, like your Mel Brooks, your Monty Python, like the classic, you know, movies where it's got its main theme, it stays with that, but it still is able to deliver the joke. Like we need more of that now. Like we don't get that anymore these days.
We have too many comedies that are set in our real world.
Right. Or they're trying to put too much shit into one thing. Like, you know, like the very first Scary Movie was relatively kind of like that. But then, you know, the studio decided to go completely, you know, let's just cram everything into it. And then we got all these other kind of where, you know, just give me something simple and deliver me a good joke. Give me the new generations of Monty Python.
Here, because I've been preaching that for a while. I'm like, where are the great comedies? I feel like we don't have great comedies anymore.
We don't.
And you look at the
stupid comedy.
And you look at the Pythons. The Pythons are all 6 of them were like comedy was their background. That's what they grew up with. Like that's what they wanted to do the most. Like I miss that.
Mm-hmm.
Like why do we need to make, like we talked about before the show, Chris Pratt? Why does Chris Pratt need to be action star Chris Pratt? Why can't he just be a comedy guy? What's wrong with being a comedic actor?
Well, like, I don't think it is. I mean, maybe he's just a bad example. Maybe that's something he at some point attributed to wannabe, but like, there's nobody nowadays that just like, that's where we don't have like maybe Broken Lizard might be the closest thing that we have right now.
And they're very cult. Like,
right.
You have to be
they're not mainstream.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. But I mean, I would honestly, that's Broken Lizard's about as close as I think of as like your comedy troupe that makes good, solid, funny movies.
I have my modern version of Monty Python.
Okay.
The Lonely Island.
I would agree with that. Okay, that would be I would definitely go with that as well. Yeah, because they're in front and behind the camera, just like Broken Lizard, just like Python. Yes. Mm-hmm. I can get behind that.
Yeah, you look at like all their music videos. I mean, obviously, Pop Star is their biggest of like Lonely Island's Pops. It's a Lonely Island production. It's their movie. But even like Hot Rod is very Lonely Island humor.
Yeah,
like I think that's the closest thing we have, and I wish we had more of it. I want more comedy stars. We don't have just straight up comedy stars anymore.
No,
like the ones I can think of are Andy Samberg, Kevin Hart, Seth Rogen, and Seth Rogen kind of has broken into the mainstream enough he can kind of do anything outside of comedy too.
Oh, he already is. That's the thing, though. It's not a matter of if; it's a matter of I mean, he's doing some of the drama, but he's getting a whole into the production side of things and producing some fantastic stuff that you're like, huh? That's the high funny guy from Knocked Up.
I mean, I guess we can kind of look at this with where Terry Gilliam's career has gone from Python. He was, the sixth. He was, for all intents and purposes, he's the 6th member of Python.
Yes.
But then, you would never expect one of the 6 guys to go on and make like 12 Monkeys later on. Like that is not Monty Python at all.
No.
So I think, it was, I guess it's been present ever since, but I would love to see more groups come out of this. I mean, a great TV show this year is like Auntie Donna's Big Old House of Fun on Netflix, which is great comedy there. If you guys haven't watched that, but
No, I have not.
yeah, worth checking out. Definitely has this style of humor, that randomness to it. Anyway, let's get back to the movie.
Yeah, let's get back on the topic, right? Logan's like, oh my God, where are these guys going with this?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Logan's like, get on with it!
Come on with it!
Don't make me get my holy hand grenade.
All of a sudden, a video of a mob pops up on the screen.
Get on with it! All right, we'll get on with it. Let's move on then to, I mean, Lancelot is rescuing the prince, I guess, is where we left off on. I love how he's like, I just get carried away. I'm sorry. Too much into the action himself.
Yep.
Yeah. I do love how, like I said, we get the animation of them all coming together now. That we got the group all together. Tim the Enchanter is one of my favorite characters of this movie. One, because Cleese plays him perfectly, and there's kind of multiple, I won't say multiple levels, but multiple jokes within the character of Tim the Enchanter. Because when he shows up, he's literally just blowing shit up, just randomly, just.
Hey, you know what? If you were standing on the top of a mountain by yourself and had nothing else better to do and had those powers, you would be doing that too.
Yeah.
I love that. That's the joke too, is like, well, I can see you're a busy man. He's just blowing stuff up. And then there's the great joke of him like just spitting up every line.
Well, yeah. Again, when you got horns like that, you got to make yourself look like the animal.
He's got big pointy teeth. Yeah, I love it. I had one of my high school teachers and my golf coach. He also was a Python fan. So me and my buddy Dakota would talk to him about Python all the time. And during one time during golf practice, all of a sudden he turned around. And he's like, and big pointy teeth, and he had his fingers like this. Yeah, it's funny seeing a 65-year-old man try to do that. It's pretty hilarious. Anyway, let's move on to then the thing that has the big pointy teeth. It is the rabbit.
I love that rabbit.
Such a great scene where they set it up that the rabbit is guarding this cave and they're all confused. Like, well, where is it? Is it behind the rabbit? It is the rabbit.
What are you doing? Telling me this is all hogwash? And then the one guy goes,
I soiled my armor because of this. Then they send the one guy out there, and I mean, Graham Chapman a couple times throughout this movie just yells, Jesus Christ! And it's hilarious every single time he yells. Like just the fact that it's just kind of this cute white rabbit just bites the head off people. It's hilarious.
That'd be if I was to go out and buy a stuffed animal, that's what I should buy.
The rabbit.
Buy the rabbit from Holy Grail.
Yeah. Let's get to the holy hand grenade of Antioch.
I would like to point out that one of my favorite video games that I can never get anybody to play, because the fact that this holy hand grenade showed up in 1975 is something I still get to see all the time, even in 2020, is there's a game called Worms.
Yep.
Where one of your weapons in every iteration that I've known of for Worms since it came out like 20 some odd years ago is a holy hand grenade. To the point where you throw it and all you hear is hallelujah before it explodes. So anytime I think of Worms, I think of Python. Every time I think of Python, especially when we get to the scene, I'm like, oh, there's my holy hand grenade.
Yeah, I think that just speaks to how much that just this group of Monty Python is ingrained in our culture.
Yep.
Like I can think we were coming up to filming this, and I saw 2-3 different things of people making references to Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and that's just awesome.
I mean, you talk about video games. I believe it's World of Warcraft, some version of World of Warcraft that has happened where you can have someone behind you with the coconuts, like that's your horse, how you're riding. Like it's so ingrained in kind of nerd culture, especially Monty Python. Like, I mean, the great Weird Al Yankovic, had white nerdy, and that one of the lines in that is he can recite every line of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Like, yeah, like this is a very nerdy thing to be fans of Monty Python. This is nerdy humor. Like you look at even the fans of them, like one that I can think of off the top of my head that's a huge Python fan is Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg is also a huge nerd.
Oh, he'll call himself a geek. I'm just saying.
Same thing. Yeah, I think that again, and I love the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch. It sets up that this subtle joke of that King Arthur thinks that 3 is 5.
Every time. No, it's only 3, sir. Oh yeah, 3.
1, 2, 5. 3, sir. Oh yes, 3.
Well, I like it because we did that my senior year in like one of our prom skits. Is we did that scene of throwing it, and we got the actual scripts, and it's like that part where he's like, and 5 is right out of the question when he's reading out of the book. I was looking through the script, and I went, "It's not on here. Why isn't it on here? Wait, they just made that up."
And 5 is right out. Thou shall not proceed to 2 unless going on to number 3. He's like reading it like he's reading from the Bible almost.
I do love that part though, when you're like, from going through and he opens up the book, because it's like 9 to like 15 or some, like long verse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, after all, it is holy. I mean,
yeah.
And because at this point right now, have we started to see any of the modern day stuff with the cops and whatnot, or is this kind of like the first iteration of like the modern day? And because I mean, obviously, there's no such thing as like hand grenade and
modern times.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, this whole movie is kind of a parody of itself. Well, it's also just making the movie. Like the credits, I think, are immediately like, all right, we're not in for anything serious in this movie. But there is a point that we should talk about those cutscenes of the historian reading the story of King Arthur, and then we get our one horse of the movie.
Only one
horse, where it's this actual knight in modern day that just kills the historian for no reason.
I would like to point out that if they would have had that horse to be the horse throughout the whole thing, and be multiple horses throughout, I think would have at least added to the joke. If they would have, but at least if we did get that one horse that one time, at least we can show that, hey, we could at least afford 3 minutes of a horse.
I think that's the best use of having an actual horse. And this is like, all right, we're going to kill our historian narrator. Now let's bring in the horse. Yes, and that's total Python, where they have the cops looking at like modern 1975 modern cops chasing them down. And I mean, that's the big payoff for the movie later on. I do like that they set it up throughout too. Yeah. Where are we going to jump to next? So we obviously have the Holy Hand Grenade. We blow up the rabbit. The Bridge of Death scene, which is an incredible scene. Lots of great acting. This is where we get one of the few scenes where we have the 6 pythons playing the main characters in the scene. Which I do appreciate that Terry Gilliam gets in on the action enough here. I mean, his big character is Patsy, but I think also the old man from scene 24. Yeah, I do. I love this scene. This is a great scene. Just it's simple humor too that I think the Pythons do so well, but they do it so effortlessly. Like, yeah, obviously the joke would be, we're going to ask you these 3 questions to get across the bridge, and there'll be super hard questions that you'll never, or riddles that you'll never be able to figure out. It's just, no. What is your favorite color? Blue. Oh, off you go. Oh, thank you.
And I love the fact that that's the very first one, because then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this won't be so bad.
What is the capital of Assyria? Oh, I don't know that.
I think
or even
something that Galahad messes it up.
I was just going to say,
is all an opinion question, and he goes, "Oh wait, I got that wrong."
No, hello.
I killed so many pairs of pants that year.
I love the fact that this is when the swallow joke resurfaces, though.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
An English or an African swallow? I don't know that. Oh
no! Well, you have to know these things when you're king. Logan, can we tell the pants ripping story?
Where I cost my mom $300 in pants. Yeah. So basically, me and two of our other members are playing the old man from C24, and then Galahad and Robin. So I'm Galahad. I'm doing the blue, no yellow, and we, instead of like flinging into the air or falling down, all three of us go, we are fully committing to jumping as high as we can and acting like we are literally falling off a cliff. So every time I performed this in blue jeans, I always had a shot of tearing my jeans because my legs would spread out so far, and I'm not a small guy. And my thighs are big. So literally, I had to do it one day. We performed for, what was it, an 8th grade class or freshman class?
Yeah.
Something like that, where I literally jumped, and we're doing this in the middle of school, and there goes my pants. So I then have to run to the gym to change out into shorts, and there we are, middle of winter. I'm wearing shorts in class, and people are like, "Why?" Oh, I tore my shorts or my pants. So, but yeah, I cost my mom probably $300 in pants that year. Especially, we did it.
You jumped off a
show night.
Yeah, you jumped off a stage.
Yeah, we because we had this whole big actual like stage for our auditorium that was, what would you say, 3 feet up?
Yeah, 3 or 4 feet off the ground. Yeah.
So we're doing it in the middle of a performance. Luckily, we had them all spread out. So literally, I'm jumping off the stage. I'm hearing my pants rip, and there are people in the front row going, "Oh no, he's coming right at us!" And I just hear my pants rip, and I go, "Oh no, this is not good." So in between performances, I had to bolt home and bolt back, and my mom and dad are sitting there going, "Why are his pants different?"
Oh no, I did it again.
So yeah, of course I ripped my pants the night that my parents are watching us. Like, imagine if I did that while we were in competition with like khakis or something. Like, kind of getting DQ'd that time.
No, but if the thing is though, if you could have done it right and made it part of the shtick though.
Well, my character's dead after that. I just lay there. So what am I doing? Ass out towards the crowd? Like, look at how you're fucking good than I am.
It's fully committed to the role.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, all right, let's get to the end of this movie. The big payoff of this entire movie is that, well, as they're about to go into battle to the castle, that the castle has been taken over by none other than the French taunters. So the French have taken the castle that the Holy Grail is supposedly at. So you know the final two members, King Arthur and Sir Bedivere, gather this huge army out of nowhere. And are going to storm.
That's what you do. You just get an army out of nowhere.
Yeah. And they're going to swarm the castle until the British police show up, arrest our final two characters, and the cops are trying to crowd control, and they basically push the camera out of the way, and that's how the movie ends.
And I would like to point out that there's no credits because they're all at the beginning.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yep, really is.
The first time I watched this, I was like, "Wait, there has to be something coming up after this." There was just an intermission 10 minutes ago, right? We're only halfway through this because they do the whole intermission joke when they're crossing the bridge for about 10 seconds. But no, it just ends that they get arrested and the film just ends.
Yep.
And I'm still to this day like, what the hell just happened? Like,
total Python joke. Like this is what they would do on their show, on Monty Python's Flying Circus. They were like, how do we end this joke? Like, how do we end the skit? Like, we don't have a punchline to the entire skit. Well, we'll just have, it's usually Graham Chapman that comes in and he's like, all right, that's enough of this sketch. Shut it off. That's enough. Like it would just end like that, like, or the police would show up and arrest them. Like they sometimes would just not have endings to their sketches.
I see that.
Yeah. How do we end the movie? They get arrested? Well, how are we going to set that up? We'll get this old guy.
How are we gonna set it up? We're not.
Do we still have money in the budget for a horse?
What? We get one horse.
We can get it for an afternoon. That's all I need.
I'll get what I want.
All right. Is there any scenes that we're missing? There, I know there is one big one that I do want to talk about, but that is the knights who say
Me.
Me.
who all they want is a shrubbery.
Shrubbery.
One with a path. A path. And you must cut down the mightiest tree in the forest with a herring.
One of my favorite.
Can you imagine how long that would take if they could actually do that?
I don't.
My arm's tired.
I just love how they get into town, and that's like they try to intimidate the townspeople by saying "knee."
That poor old lady.
And yeah, but if you're just no,
it's knee. Knee.
No. And then we get the great Roger the Shrubber. Just the fact that that's the guy's name, Roger the Shrubber.
Yes.
And he sells shrubberies.
Well, wouldn't you think that's what a shrubber does?
Hey, I mean, if that's your name, that's probably the profession you should probably get into.
Mm-hmm.
We are no longer the knights who say knee. We now say eki eki pekangs the bing.
And you need to go get us another shrubbery, but bigger.
Raise it up a little bit. Give it that 2-tier level.
Has a nice path between them. All right. Do you guys have any other scenes you want to mention? Otherwise, I do have one final question for all three of us before we end it.
Can we talk about how they run up to a castle and start swinging swords at it? Way back in that French scene, they're like, charge! And they're swinging their swords at a castle wall.
Run away!
Of course, the only way you're going to stop that is by throwing a chicken down.
This one's for your mother. My final question then is, what is your favorite scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
The Black Knight.
Black Knight?
Oh, hands down. Merely a flesh wound.
What are you gonna do? Bleed on me?
I had it as I was rewatching it.
I think you stumped Logan.
I know it is hard to pick.
I knew, like I saw it, and I went, "Yeah, that's probably my favorite scene." But it might be the Lancelot scene, even though for me it is kind of like cringe because I think back to me going, "But mother," from playing the prince. But the fact is, you have just so much different stuff going on in that scene. Where it's like you have that male that's like trying to like come save me, and then Lancelot just charging through killing guests. You killed a guest down there.
There he is. Like the music builds up again.
Start charging up.
Sorry, everyone. Sorry.
I don't know. I would say that's probably my favorite, but it could come back to me what my favorite one is.
I know there is so many in this movie.
There's a lot of good scenes.
Yeah.
It's a whole one great big good scene.
It is. The entire movie is great. I mean, God, if I had to pick one, though, I mean, I'd maybe go with the witch scene. I think that's just one of my favorites because there is a lot going on. And I mean, the payoff to that entire scene is that the scale they use is completely out of balance. So every time they put a witch on there, she's going to be a witch anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There are so many scenes. I mean, for me, this is just a perfect movie. It's one of the great comedies of all time, and it's hard to pick one scene. I think it is a perfect movie from also Wick to the cop shoving the camera out of the way. It's a perfect movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you guys have any other? Yeah, do you guys have any other final thoughts? Anything you want to bring up for Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Maybe if this is the Holy Grail, maybe we should have left this for the last episode.
Oh, believe me, we have a lot to talk about this month. Yeah, we're kicking it off with the Holy Grail. I mean, I think for many people, this is an introduction movie into Python. I think it's
Very
probably
much so.
It's their most popular thing they've ever done. The most popular thing they've ever done. One that leads people down the rabbit hole that is Python. I mean, this was my start into Python. I don't know, Logan. I think this was your introduction to.
Yep.
Brian,
definitely.
was this your first Python experience?
My only Python experience.
Oh, interesting.
So yes, this will be a very interesting month.
Yes, it will. I mean, one of them has your name in it, and I do think it is one of the great Python movies. And I think the other two are sketch movies, and I think are very interesting to talk about.
I've had a lot of people be like, "You've never seen Life of Brian, and your name is Brian." Really? That's your go-to?
Brian, you are a naughty, naughty boy. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Not Brian, but okay.
Yeah. Logan, you like that one too, don't you?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, let's go ahead. Leave a comment below. What's your favorite Python scene or sketch from Monty Python and the Holy Grail? And of course, leave a comment. Like I said, subscribe to us on any of the platforms that we are on. And the platforms that we are on. If you didn't know, we are on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and to see our lovely faces and Logan's logo, you can find us on YouTube.
yeah, my face isn't lovely.
You got turned into a newt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Turned into a newt?
Brian, where can they find us on social media?
Let's see if I can do that. Oh, I got it right this time. Hey, look at that. You can find us Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Backlot605. Yeah. You can check us out at the South Dakota Film Community Group on Facebook here. Join the conversation. We'd like to talk about film and movies and what's going on, and come say hi.
Mm-hmm. And we do got to give a special shout out to our patrons. We do got to thank all of them. One of them, he is on the show. Logan, thank you so much. Also, thanks to Blake, Andy, Derek, Lou, Corey, and Darren. Thank you guys so much for being patrons on the show. And if you would like to become a patron, please join us on patreon.com/backlot605. That is patreon.com/backlot605. We do have a $1, $3, $5 tier. We did just update the $3 tier. We added a little extra perk. You are going to get the podcast, the one you're listening to right now, a couple days early. So you're going to get this earlier than anyone else just by joining the $3 a month tier. So that's very cool. Also, $5 a month listeners, you get a bonus podcast, which was just released for last month's episode, which was The Game for David Fincher month. During Monty Python month, we're going to leave that up to you for what we're going to be doing. So if you do want to vote for what is going to be our Patreon bonus month, join our Patreon, patreon.com/backlot605, and we will put up a poll probably in the next week or so of what we should do for our bonus episode for the month. Do you want us to talk about more Python? Do you want us to talk about something completely different? Or
Terry Gilliam?
Or some Terry Gilliam, or maybe talk about our favorite movies from last year. We're going to leave that up to you guys. But speaking of something completely different, next week we are talking about the Python's first movie, and now for something completely different. So that'll be next week's episode. Very excited to talk about that. That should be a ton of fun. Brian, you have no idea what you're walking into on this one, do you?
Zero. Completely have no idea.
It should be fun. That's all I will say.
Here's hoping.
Here is hoping. Logan, let's throw it off to you before we check out for the night. Where can people find you online and your comic book?
All right. So you can purchase our pre-order, like we said earlier, at Polarized73.com. And then you can also follow us over on Instagram and Facebook at Polarized73 on there. And yeah, well, basically that's where Polarized73.com is where you're going to find everything from merch to where we're posting all of our comic books. We're doing a lot of stuff. I'm physically doing a lot of the stuff with shipping and merchandising. So yeah, that's where you can find us at.
Yeah, and
put him to work. Put Logan to work.
Yeah, put Logan to work. Jeez,
I can't draw, so I got to do something.
Good answer.
Yes.
Yep.
So go check it out, polarized73.com. Again, like we said earlier, 10% off any purchase off the website for this entire month using promo code BACKLOT10. Again, Logan, thank you so much for joining us, you silly English nigget.
Great to be here. Great to be here. Love being on.
Getting berated by me. I like it.
Yep. Well, I'm used to it, so.
All right. For episode 113 of the Backlot 605 podcast, for Brian Mensing, I'm Casey Kelderman. We'll check y'all out next time on the Backlot of where? South Dakota.